Welcome to the spagirlspodcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Shah Barrett.
And I'm Trudy J, and we are here with the delightful Erin Wright. Say
Yay!
hello.
Welcome.
Hello, so excited to be here. I can't believe y'all have me back again. This is super cool. Thank
It's been a
you.
while.
It has been a
Yeah.
while. We feel like things have changed. Well, maybe not so much, but anyway, Erin is an expert on being wide. So, being wide. That sounds
Publishing
out of
wide.
context. That could have been really bad.
I'm really good at telling people to eat lots of donuts. So
Yeah,
there's that.
that's why we got you on. All about
This
the
is the
donuts.
podcast for you.
Yeah. No, no, it's not about the donuts. It's about publishing wide to all platforms as opposed to being exclusive just Amazon. And we've had you, last time we had you on was in 2023. It was episode 391. If anyone wants to go back and listen to it, I'd recommend it. I just listened to it last night and it's still a lot of it very, very relevant. And that was a basics episode to explain the differences and kind of some of the things about the different websites and stuff like that. Whereas this time, I think we're trying to do a bit more of a deep dive. We're going to ask you a few more tips and tricks about the specific platforms and get in there and find out some really good meaty information. But to start, can you let us know what's been happening for you the last 2 years? Of anything new and exciting in your world? Oh, what? Oh, bio. Sorry. Okay. I will read your bio and then I will ask you that question. Sorry. I'm like jumping ahead because I'm so excited. All right. Here we go. USA Today best-selling author Erin Wright has worked every job under the sun, including library director, barista, teacher, website designer, and ranch hand helping brand cattle before settling into the career she's always dreamed about, author. She went wide on all platforms in 2017 when she discovered that she couldn't get her books into libraries if she was exclusive to Amazon. Then, being the kind of person who likes to help others, she founded the Wide for the Win platform in 2019 and now does consulting for authors who want to find out more about how to be a successful wide author. There you go.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet bio. Thank you.
Oh, I wrote it myself. No, I didn't. You wrote most of it. So what's been happening last couple of years? What have you been doing?
Yeah, well, actually quite a bit. My life has changed a fairly significant amount. I have left my husband, which is
Oh,
really good news. We can pop all the champagne. So I left him in February, and it was 10 years of marriage, um, and and it was time to let that go. We're still in the process of doing the divorce paperwork and such. That always takes a long time. But in the meanwhile, I have moved in to my parents' place, which is still here in Idaho. And I travel quite a bit. So I really love spending time here at my parents' farm. With my both my parents are still with us, and my grandmother is still with us. She's in her 90s and she lives here too. So it's really a lot of fun to be with family.
Awesome.
But
Three
also,
generations on the farm. That sounds fabulous.
yes, yes, absolutely. But I also really like to travel and I like to go to author conferences and book signings and things. And so I have started traveling and doing pet sitting as a way of going to new
Mm.
places without spending a whole bunch in like Airbnb or hotels and that sort of
Hmm.
thing. And so I've been through Wyoming and Utah and Montana and Washington and Oregon and Idaho, of course. So
ah.
I've kind of been staying in this portion of the world. My grandma's still in really good health considering her age, but I still am. I don't know. Anyway,
Mm.
but I am getting braver because I'm leaving on Friday and I am about to do a much longer trip. Be gone for 2 months this time. I'm starting in Utah and I'm going to Ohio and then West Virginia, then Maryland, then Virginia, and then I'll be back home. and it'll take a total of 2 months for that trip. So I'm doing some author conferences, I'm doing some presentations, and I'm doing some book signings. And anyway, but it's just so
Fantastic.
much
Wow.
fun. Yes,
Ah,
I
that's
You're a
love
busy lady.
absolutely
You need to
right.
do it down here in New Zealand, just
yeah.
saying,
Yes.
Erin, because
Well,
I
I just
had I had pet sitters and exactly for that, and I was away for 6 weeks, and I had a lovely couple come, and it's a great way of knowing that your place is looked after, and more importantly, your pets are looked after. But also for them,
Yes.
it's,
Yep,
six
yep,
weeks of free
absolutely.
rent and utilities.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So if anybody's curious, I
Mm.
use trusted
Yes,
pet sitters.
that's who I used
Yep,
as
yep,
well.
yep.
So they're global.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. They are.
Yeah.
So you can go to New Zealand or
Mm-hmm.
Australia or the
Yeah.
UK or Europe, and they even have a few, like one or two pet sits in like Africa and Asia and stuff. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I use trusted pet sitters and or trusted house sitters, excuse me. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I have it on my bucket list to go to New
Yeah.
Zealand and
Awesome.
Australia. That's and use trusted house sitters to
Yeah.
get
do
free
that.
accommodations as I go.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And then I get to go love on animals, which
Mm.
um I absolutely love
Mm.
animals and they know it. And so it works out really well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay,
Like a
right. So back
baby.
to the self-publishing.
Oh
Now that
yes,
we've
sorry.
established.
So but it's good because it does allow me to go see readers and
Yeah.
authors and do book signings and go to author conferences.
Mm,
So it all just sort of works well together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, in terms of the author world, I am still just chugging along and doing my thing. I have seen quite a few trends come and go. And I was just kind of curious if you guys have seen the same thing where like I think last time I was on here we were talking about serial apps
Mm-hmm.
and
yeah.
serial apps aren't as big now. I mean, there are still some, but they're not like a major part of things like they were previously.
Yeah.
And instead, I really feel like direct sales and especially Kickstarter has taken over that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, you got to go make all the money on Kickstarter and have special editions of your books, and you should do that instead.
Yeah.
And there isn't nearly as much chatter about the serial apps, even though Radish is still around, Kiss is still around. The companies are still there. They're just not. Honestly, what happened, if you guys want to know the truth, is they were paying too much
Mm.
and they weren't making money. And so when they started backing off on how much they were paying, it got a lot less lucrative. And so it became a lot less interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I still make money from it, but it's not like it was before because they were overpaying, is the
Mm,
honest truth
Yes.
of it.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
So that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Something where these trends come in and everyone's jumping. Because I remember doing a RAM one year, Romance Author Mastermind one year, and it was everyone was talking about the serial apps and how that you needed to be on the serial apps and how much money they were making. And so that's obviously something that's now died off. And everyone, like the last RAM that Cher and I went to last year, was all about special editions and direct sales. Would you say, Cher? Like what's
Stores, yeah. Mhm.
yeah, and that's
yep.
all that you kind of most people are talking about these days. I can't think if there's anything else that's the kind of buzzword. It's definitely those kinds of things though.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I really think that the next big buzzword or like big trend that people are going to be talking about a lot is using AI to do translations into
Yeah.
other languages
Mhm.
and really pushing international sales a lot more, right?
Yeah.
Because the cost is a lot less. And so, there's a lot of feelings about AI and whether you're okay with it or not and those sorts of things. But the honest truth is that um, the the cost is just so much less,
Mm,
even if you pay somebody to go through and do all the cleanup work, that I feel like the other languages, those markets are going to really be, I don't know if the word is flooded, but a lot bigger as it becomes a lot less expensive to get your books into them.
I'd agree
And
with that
so,
totally.
yeah.
We talked about it at one point, I think, previously, because I think you were just getting into doing them. So I'm curious to know how you're going now. So we'll talk about that in a second. But you also talked about it as being like, there's a human narrator, and those books are going to cost more because it costs more to do the human narrators. And there will be some people who need the human narrator, and they want the intonations and they want those kinds of things. But then there's the people who don't mind, and they want the cheaper translations, and that's what you can get from AI. So it's almost like it was two different markets. Is that still the case, would you say, or is there more people?
So human narrator is audiobooks. So those are AI audiobooks, and then there's
Translations.
AI
Okay.
translations. Yeah, into other
Yeah.
languages, so like German and
Yeah.
Italian and stuff.
Sorry, I was getting
Um,
confused. My apologies.
yeah. No worries. And I actually do have my books in human narration, and then I also have them in AI, because I did want to be able to give people that option. Because the human narrated are, depending on the platform, $15 to $20 for each book. Whereas the AI ones are the same cost as my ebooks, which at the moment they're still $4.99, although I really should change that. So it's $5, right, for an AI versus 15 or 20 for the human. Um, I sell way more human than I do AI,
Right.
despite that price difference. And I specifically did the AI just because I wanted to see, right, how price conscious are the listeners. And I'm finding out that it wasn't the price. It's the experience. So at least for right now, people are paying more for the human narrated books, and are willing to do that. Now I will say there's a difference where platforms won't take AI, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I'm not getting any sales on those platforms. So it's not like it's the same number of platforms and the same exposure for both. Um, so it's not exactly, apples to apples. But at the same time, I do find it fascinating that there are quite a few platforms where there is a human narrated and there's the AI narrated, and the human narrated outsells AI by quite a bit. So people, if given the choice, will do the human narrated. I do think that if people don't have audiobooks at all because of cost concerns, that it is, for me personally, and I know this is a very much a hot topic, and I don't want to get anybody like want to get anybody you guys getting hate mail or something. But to me, having AI audio, if you don't have human narrated audio, is really an access thing, right? There are a lot of people whose eyes aren't good enough to read, or they can't read at all because they're completely blind, and they can have the ebook be read out loud by their e-reader, but the quality isn't very good. When you get an AI audiobook done, the quality is better. Yes, both of them are AI, right? But it's just that the tools that you use to make an AI audiobook are just a lot more refined than the read aloud feature on an
Yeah.
e-reader.
Right.
And so the experience is just much better.
And I
So
would say that will
I,
only improve as well too. What we'll be listening to in 6 months from AI audio will be better than it is right at this moment. It's just the nature of the things.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of
yes.
authors out there that aren't making enough to invest, 2,500
Mhm.
plus, to 5,000 perhaps on a
Yeah.
human narrator. So
Yeah.
I
And
can
that's just for one
empathize. I can
book,
empathize with authors.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, my catalog isn't even that large. I've only got 15 books.
Mm.
But if you do the math and you're multiplying it out, right? That is a couple grand to 5 grand, depending on how long the book is.
Mm.
That's a healthy chunk of change.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I genuinely don't think that authors should pay for human narrated audiobooks, when they are still little baby authors in
Mm.
terms of like their size and their reach. because you learn so much. The first like handful of books that you do are really just your like babies to play around with. You have no idea what it is that you don't know, right? You don't know what you
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, it
Absolutely.
is like
Mm.
no clue. And so you're going to make the best decisions that you know how based on the knowledge that you have right now. And that is great. That's how you learn. But please know that you don't know so much. And so don't put tens of thousands of dollars into major projects when you're first coming out as an author. It's just not smart because you're going to make some massive mistakes and you're going to think you're doing the right thing, but I can guarantee it. Yeah, like you're better just setting your money on fire and having like a little marshmallow roast, right? Like just please don't do it. So AI audiobooks are a great way to get access to your audiobooks until the good rule of thumb is when you launch a new book. Okay, so whatever day of the month it is, I don't care. The first 30 days of the release of that book, if you took the income that you made from the release of that book, just the ebook sales, okay, for the first 30 days. So all the pre-orders that hit the system and then the first 30 days of sales, add that all together. Could you, if you had no other expenses, let's pretend for a moment that you didn't have to pay for copy editing or covers or anything else, right? You just were able to take that chunk of money. Could you turn around and pay a human narrator to narrate that audiobook straight up? Could you just pay for it?
Good question.
If the answer is no, your career has not grown to the point that it makes sense for you to put money into human narrated audiobooks yet. It's a really good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good
Yeah.
litmus test. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So now go back to translations that I
Oh,
got us off topic on. So AI translations, is you still needed. So there's still the human translator versus the AI translator. Is that another difference thing again? Would you have both, or is it something where you just have one or the other?
um, so with translators, if if a translator is not using AI to at least a human translator is not using AI to at least do the brute force part of translation, you know, um probably the 80% of the translations, where it just does the general gist of everything. And then they go back through and they clean it up and they make it sound better and they clean out the flow and they pick right words where it's like, yeah, that's actually not a great word for it. Oh, I have to tell you guys, this is really funny. Um, I put a list of keywords into Google Translate to in English, and I thought, okay, I'm going to put these in and get a list of these same keywords in German, and I'll give it to my German gal. She was born in Germany. She now lives in the US. She's completely bilingual, and have her like look them over and just make sure that they're all great. Yeah, one of the keywords, steamy romance, translated to in German, damp romance.
Oh.
hmm
Oh.
hmm
Oh.
hmm Oh yeah. I'm not sure which would be worse, damp
Damn.
romance or moist
I was going to say it could have been
romance.
worse. It could have been worse.
Oh, please.
Anyway, so yes, you do want a human narrator. I mean, a human. Now you got me doing it, Trudy.
Yes.
You do want a
Okay.
human translator, to do, to go through and make sure that you're not talking about damp romances. But if a human narrator isn't doing at least that first 80% using an AI, they're making their life way more difficult than they should. Because AI has definitely gotten to the point that it can do that first pass. And then from there, they should be doing their human touch and doing the cleanup and making it really sparkle and shine and make it sound like an actual human, did it.
Mm.
So translations, I feel like is a part of things where you can't actually quite tell as much. So you may hire someone and be like, well, I'm hiring a human to translate. I really hope I'm not like people all over the world are having heart attacks right now. And I'm sorry, but this is the truth of it. You're going to hire someone who is a human translator, and they're going to use AI to do the first pass, and then they're going to clean things up from there. And you're going to think, hey, I used a human. You could also run it through things like Shadow Scribe, which is an AI translation company, and then hire someone to do the proofreading. The first pass is done through AI, and then you're paying for proofreading, or you could pay somebody to translate the exact same thing. Honestly, almost guaranteed is happening. For that first pass is through AI, the second pass is with a human. It's just that the humans aren't always telling authors that that's what's going on, and so they're charging more.
That's interesting. So would you recommend asking the person that you've asked to translate it if they are using AI for the first pass?
I mean, you can.
But you're still requiring, I
I'm
mean,
yeah, I don't know how to say like how to guarantee that they aren't,
no.
right? And honestly, I don't know that it's a bad thing that they are,
Mm,
right? Because it just makes things faster.
I was going to say it
mm,
would
It's
really speed it up.
mm,
Yes, very much. So what some people have been doing is just doing the AI pass themselves and then hiring someone
Mm.
who's native language to do the proofreading, which even though it's exactly the same number of steps, it's cheaper to do it that way because from the jump, the expectation is that they are only proofreading rather than actually doing all the translations themselves.
mm.
I'm really afraid that you guys are going to get the nastiest comments in the podcast, the comment section. I'm really, really sorry. If you want to cut all this out, I promise
Not
I
at
will not
all.
be
No,
offended.
it's
I
just a
mean,
conversation.
this is
It's just
just the
we're not telling
reality,
people this
right?
is what they should do. It's just a
We
conversation.
we
Okay.
can't hide our heads in the sand, because none of us can control what tools another person, and nor should we try, because that way there be madness, So,
Mm,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
also go in knowing that you don't know what tools are the tools people are using,
mm,
whether it's a pickaxe or whether it's an AI.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. So I genuinely feel like there are companies out there that are really good, like Scribe Shadow. Their whole thing is we will help you translate books and help you do really good languages. And then you can hire someone using Upwork or Fiverr or, find somebody, however. And what I typically recommend that you do is don't just take their word for it that they speak that language. You should have someone who speaks that language, right? You have a friend who is from Germany because we're international and is
mm,
fantastic. And you have the person who's going to be doing the proofreading pass, proofread a chapter, and then you give the original that you fed into Scribe Shadow, the
mm,
Scribe Shadow version, and the proofreader's version all to a very trusted person who speaks that language fluently. And you
mm,
ask them, how well was this done?
mm,
Yeah.
And until you do that, you should be doing the same exact steps if you were hiring someone to do human translation and you're like, nope, I'm going to skip Scribe Shadow. Cool, cool. You should still do those same steps where you have them do one chapter as a proof.
Yeah.
And if you write sexy times, it should be the sexy times chapter because that's where things really get like
Yeah.
mm,
interesting.
Mm.
Yeah.
mm.
So
And
anyway, but
Yeah.
you
there's
should,
no
yeah, you should
guarantee,
have somebody
whichever way you
trust.
do it, that it's going to be any good. Do you know what I mean? Especially with the
Mm.
translation. So you definitely always need to be
Yeah,
checking.
You get the
Yeah.
manuscript back and you're like, I don't know. It looks okay.
I know. I know. I told my German translator, I was like, you could be writing Itsy Bitsy Spider on here and I wouldn't have any idea,
No,
right? Like, I
no.
don't speak German.
Mhm.
So that's why you definitely want to have that test, I guess.
Yeah.
And what I usually tell people, when I've hired through Upwork and such, is that I don't pay them to do the test. But if I hire them because they did a really good job, then I pay them at that point.
Yeah.
And then that way I don't have people who are going for it who don't know what they're doing and think like, I don't know, well, at least I still get paid for it, and I'll
Yeah.
just run it through AI and let
Mm.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like they aren't going to go for it unless they really feel like they could get the job, and they should only feel that way if they actually speak the language. So that's what I personally do, and I haven't had anybody like freak out on me yet. So
Yeah.
Mm. And
And so
also Scribe Shadow they can put you onto translators that will do proofreading for you as well.
mhm.
And they'll do the AI
Yes,
in the
yes.
email. Yeah.
So they work with Problem Solved quite a
Yes,
bit.
problem
And
solved.
there's
Yeah.
Maxwell,
Mhm.
Max, who works at Problem Solved, and I've heard some had really good experiences with
Mhm.
them. Some have been okay. So I'm not sure. Like it might be good just to like test it. Maybe
Yeah.
you have a really good experience. Maybe yours isn't as great.
Yeah.
But I haven't had 100% like yes for
Mm.
problem solved. So I'm just a little bit hesitant to be like absolutely use them because
No,
I
no.
think
yeah.
for a lot of, and it doesn't matter really what field, whether we're talking translations or whatever, but often when a provider becomes really popular or the workload, they might be taking on more people to work for them. And suddenly that's when the quality control maybe can get a little,
I think that's
because there's a
exactly what
vast difference
happened.
between running
Yeah.
a small business where there's one or two of you than there is when you suddenly got a team of 10 kind of thing, and it's often I've seen that over the years. I mean, we've been doing this podcast for 10 years. You would have seen the same, Erin, as things that maybe have, or service providers, and I'm talking across the board here, often will have an outstanding reputation in one particular time zone area, time
Mhm.
period, and then suddenly it's not quite as good, but they can ride on
Mm.
the coattails of that because
Yep.
it
Yeah.
becomes a little bit self-perpetuating, doesn't it? You get really popular and
Yes.
suddenly you can't meet you need to meet the need
Oh,
and the
yeah.
demand.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I think
Yes.
that idea of, doing that quality control is a great idea, no matter whether it's translation or audio or anything, actually. I think that's a really
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
good
Yeah.
tool,
Yeah.
good tip.
Well, and speaking of writing the coattails and such, uh, it, sorry, this just popped in my mind if you guys are okay switching
Of
topics, but
course.
direct sales,
Mm,
I've been seeing like everybody's like you have to use Shopify, right? Shopify is the only one, the only tool that's worth using. Don't bother with WooCommerce, don't bother with Wix, don't bother with any of the rest of them. And I've already seen an increase in the Shopify costs per month. They
Mhm.
are going up in costs. And this is what happens every time that well, I shouldn't say every time. Vellum and BookFunnel, thank you guys for proving that this we were wrong, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
They have not raised their prices like in a crazy way. But pretty much everybody else, as soon as they get
Yeah.
really popular, they're like, okay, time to jack up my prices.
Mm.
And so I just want to say, like, I genuinely feel, and I am happy to come back on in 2 years or 3 years from now and find out if I was right or wrong. So, future Erin, you can, eat the words or grow with success. I don't know, but I do genuinely feel that there's kind of been a bit of a too much of a stampede maybe towards Shopify,
Mhm.
and it's become like the cool kid on the block,
Yeah.
right? And they're raising the prices. They've already started doing it, and they're going to continue to do it until us authors are like, this is really painful. Do you guys remember all of that happening with MailerLite? MailerLite was the new
Yep.
kid on the block
Yeah.
and they took a bunch of business away from MailChimp,
hmm
and then they just kept raising their prices. And
Mm.
Yeah.
people are moving away from MailerLite because they got too expensive and
Mm.
their customer service went down, right? So, because I used to just be able to send them a chat message and talk to them at any point, And now I have to pay stupid amounts of money per month for my account in order to have ability to send them a chat message.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's no
that
longer just
sucks. Yeah.
included.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the
And
same with
so,
my previous favorite host was web hosting was SiteGround, and they're amazing, and it just, yeah, I mean, I used to recommend them, and I mean, they're fantastic if you've got a bottomless money bag, go for it, but I don't.
Yes.
So you know what, when the Black Friday sales came around and I got my equivalent of 2 years hosting on Hostinger that I was paying 1 month for in SiteGround,
Mm.
you know.
okay, that is really funny, Shar, because literally earlier today, I
Hmm.
was working with my tech guy and we moved my accounts from SiteGround to
Uh-huh.
Hostinger
There you go.
today.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I
Because
love
he
them.
was,
I love them.
I know.
The support was amazing, but just the pricing is
Mm.
it's just not
Yes.
feasible.
Yes. So, because I host a bunch of different sites, I have
Same.
a lot of different things going on. Yeah. And he did the math for me, and I'm saving $1,200.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is
Yeah.
not a small amount, right?
Yeah. No,
Mm.
And I
exactly.
do. SiteGround's customer service is great. That's
Mm.
fantastic. But it's not $1,200 great. And I'm really
No.
sorry to be that way. But I
Yeah.
have bills to pay and,
Yeah.
kitty cats mouths to feed. So
Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly. And so going back to the Shopify thing, so I mean there's still WooCommerce, and I think that in other different versions, I'm sure, and the world being what it is in terms of tech development, there'll be probably in a year's time there'll be something else as well. There's other options.
I think the
yeah, yep.
most frustrating thing I find with something like Shopify is that you can't run it on its own. You then have to download these apps, and every app costs you money. So it
Mm,
does
Mhm.
seem to be, to
Yes.
me, like double, triple dipping because I feel they should be able to provide that as a service. If I
mm,
want
Right.
somebody to leave reviews, they should be able to do it. I shouldn't have to, sign into Luke's and get them to, however you say it, and get that and then something else and then something else and yeah.
yeah. It
Yeah.
feels like there's a
Yeah.
lot of ticket clipping going
Yeah,
on.
it
Is yeah.
does. It does feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ticket clipping. I don't know
Clipping.
this. This
Yeah.
They're
this
clipping the
must be
ticket
in
on the, like,
Like
you
if you
buy
get
a
a bus
ticket for a
ticket
ride on
and
the bus, but you want to sit down, so you get another, clip taken off your ticket to sit down, and feel more, you want an air-conditioned seat, costs you even more.
yeah.
Oh, okay. This is a New Zealand thing.
It's an
I
old
love
No,
saying.
that.
It's a
it's an
very
old saying
old
because you don't
saying.
have
Yeah.
to do that
Very,
on
very
buses.
old. I'm
Yeah.
showing my
Okay.
age,
Yeah.
and
All
probably
right.
English.
It's probably English. Yeah.
Yeah, we have so many. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you
Right.
scratch us underneath, and most of us, came on a boat from England at some point, back in the day. So,
Back in the day. Yeah. No, I feel the same way about Shopify. And I guess that's one of the things because people are like, well, yeah, WooCommerce is the base program WooCommerce is free,
mm,
Mm.
right? Completely free.
Yeah.
But it is in order to get special like things, upgrades and whatever, you have to buy plugins
Mm.
that give you like these special blah blah blahs over here. And so people are like, well, yeah, so you still have to buy those. And so is it really that much cheaper? Yes.
It
Yes,
is.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because first off, Shopify charges you every time you have a purchase made on your site, right? There's a Shopify fee along with paying them per month. WooCommerce does not have that. Number two, Shopify has a monthly fee. Again, WooCommerce doesn't have that, right? So you have plugins for Shopify, you have plugins for WooCommerce. But because WooCommerce starts out free and you don't have those payments that you're making every time you make a sale, blah, 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 blah. The thing about WooCommerce, the place where Shopify wins, and this is genuinely where they win, is you do not have to be super tech savvy to
mm,
set up a site. You don't have to be super tech savvy to set one up on WooCommerce, but it's probably not going to look great. In order to have a really good looking WooCommerce site, you do have to either be a developer yourself or hire someone.
Well, that's
But the ongoing costs are significantly cheaper.
Mm.
And they have more flexibility. So what a lot of people don't realize is that WooCommerce is the back end for some really major retailers in the world. Is so people are like, oh, well, I can't make WooCommerce do that. Okay, that's a lack of knowledge. That is not a lack of ability. And so Shopify is more click and play, but you're paying for that
Yeah.
when by those monthly fees and by every transaction fee and. So anyway, it can make more sense financially to hire someone to build your WooCommerce site, and then you can just do updates from there as long as you're somewhat tech savvy. And if you aren't, you can't really be doing Shopify either, right?
Yeah.
Once
No.
once this yeah, once the site is up and going, it's a pretty much the same amount of work to keep them going. But Shopify, you can technically do it yourself, and WooCommerce, you really should, unless you're a developer, you should be having somebody else do it themselves, doing it for you. But then once you get past that, WooCommerce is hella cheaper.
Mm.
They keep winning on that ease, right? People like the convenience,
Yeah.
and so here we are.
Yeah.
I know more than a few people who pay hundreds of dollars a month for their Shopify store,
Yeah.
just
So, question,
in the
Erin,
fees.
when you talked about before about looking at the sales on that one book and making the decision whether that it was worthwhile investing in audiobook, do you have do a same sort of test on whether it's worthwhile having a direct store? Like, is there a certain level of sales you should achieve before looking at that?
No, and here's why. Um, People and Russell Nolte, if you're listening to the dulcet tones of my voice, I'm talking about you, dude. Some people make really good money with direct sales and Kickstarters who make virtually nothing on website sales. So like storefronts, right? So I just did a podcast interview with him, and if I remember correctly, he was saying that he makes what it's either $30 a month on Amazon or $300 a month on Amazon. I really think it was 30 that he made in a whole month on Amazon. But
Wow.
then he made like $15,000 from Kickstarter, right? So it really has nothing to do with how much you or how you're doing on the sites, on the stores, whether you will do well on direct sales or not, in Kickstarter. So I kind of think of Kickstarter and direct sales as being like somewhat hand in hand because a lot of authors will do a special edition on Kickstarter and then offer that special edition afterwards through their site.
Right.
Things like that, right? So
Yeah.
they tend to go well together. But really, in order to do well with Kickstarter and or direct sales, you need to have a few different things. A willingness to work and play outside of the box. It is more complicated than it is to upload to Barnes and Noble. When you are on Barnes and Noble, when you're on Kobo, when you're on Google Play, Apple, Amazon, blah, 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 you really are relying on them to provide a lot of the visibility. Now you can get BookBub feature deals, you can do Facebook ads if you would like, you can run AMS ads, those sorts of things. But a lot of it is just you are listed on that platform and they have readers and they will find you through that platform. If it's direct sales, people will not find your site unless you direct them to that site somehow. It is very little traffic is going to be coming through like Google. So how are you going to get that traffic? Is a big part of does it make sense for you to do a direct sales site? So one of the things that a lot of people obviously do is Facebook ads, right? They'll spend a lot of money on Facebook ads, and that is totally a legit thing. I personally don't like Facebook ads. I don't like cost per click ads, actually. And so it's just the idea of like all the iterations. I put up this visual and it has this button and it's this shade of color and it's this whatever. And then I move it over 3 pixels and I change it to a color that's a shade darker. And will that change the amount of? I'm just like, that is not my happy place.
I
So
hear you. I
I'm
hear you.
right. So I mean, if you really, I know people who genuinely enjoy Facebook ads, right? Like it's a game and they play the game and they win the game and it is fun for them. And I'm like, have at ye. It's just not me. So, but that is a way of getting eyeballs on your direct sales site. Another way is to get sales through the retailers. And then in the back of the book, encourage people to get the next book on your own site. So this works really well with ebooks. So you're like, hey, buy the next book here. Or if you buy it directly from my site, use this coupon code and get 25% off, right? Here's the thing. None of the platforms, none of the retailers consider direct sales to be a legit a source of competition for them. None of them are taking it seriously. And that's good. Like they don't need to. Nope. You just wander up and you continue to pay
Don't
no
look over
attention.
here.
Right? Exactly. We're not doing anything of any note. Just, go away now. So can you do that? Absolutely. There's not a platform out there that gets grumpy with you for putting a coupon code for your own site in
Even
the back of your
Amazon,
box.
like if because they're
Even
so funny
Amazon.
with obviously you're not going to put a link in, are you, in the back of your book to say go to my
No,
site?
absolutely. You put a link in.
Yeah.
100%. The only thing Amazon doesn't want you to do is put a link to other retailers.
Right.
But you can put a link to your own site 1,000 times over. Absolutely. All of them allow that and have zero problems with it. Go to my site, buy it here. Here's a coupon. 100%. The other things that you can do to encourage direct sales is things like offering the book early to people who pre-order off your site. So they get it 2 weeks early, or they get like a special bonus epilogue, if only available if they buy it direct. You can do coupons for your site, and you don't have to drop the prices on the retailers because again, they don't care what you're doing on your site. So your site can be cheaper and or you can offer coupons and it that is not price matched by any of the platforms, including Amazon. So people will, give a discount, buy it from me. And even with the discount, you are still making more money because you get such a bigger chunk of direct sales versus on site, on platforms. So on retailers. So anyway, there's lots of different ways to climb that mountain and make money as an author. And so Russell and Monica came up, I'm not sure which one of the two or if they came up with it together, but aggressively wide was their phrasing. And so like wide is you are publishing on all the major platforms and probably the libraries. Aggressively wide is you are doing Patreon, you are doing a Kickstarter, you're doing direct sales, you're putting your audiobooks up on YouTube, those sorts of things. Like it's even more wide. And you don't have to do all the things. If you are currently in KU and you're listening to us talk and you're like, OMG, like this all sounds so overwhelming. I guess I'll just stay in KU. That makes my heart sad. Don't do that. You can go wide and you can do like at the easy level, right? Play the video game at easy level. And then as you start to wrap your mind around the things that you do know, and then you can start to do the more complicated upper
So
level.
could you give us a 101 on the easy level for somebody that's sitting there listening to this and thinking, okay, I like the idea of it, but I've only got so many hours in the day.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you can go really easy. Okay, let's pretend like for a moment that you are I don't know, otherwise a mother of 7 children and you also are a full-time, I don't know, whatever. And you're off, doing all these things. And you're like, I have time to hit publish one time, so I have to be exclusive to Amazon. Not true. If you only have time to upload your book in one place, you can still use a distributor to do that for you. And then you are distributing your books everywhere, and it is only one upload. So there are three major distributors out there: Draft2Digital, Smashwords, Draft2Digital, Publish Drive, and StreetLib are the three major distributors out there. And you can use them to go to all platforms, including Amazon, if you genuinely only want to upload to one place. Most people will use distributors, a distributor for most of the platforms, but go to Amazon directly. I mean, there's lots of different ways to climb that mountain. But yeah, that's like if you want like super easy, go to one of the distributors, Draft2Digital, StreetLib, or Publish Drive. Sign up for account, use them to distribute your ebook everywhere, call it a day. That's as easy as it gets. If you want a little bit more complicated, let's say that you have a little bit more time, you're a little bit more tech savvy, you want to increase your income because when you use a distributor, they have to pay their bills. That is going to cost you money. Either cost you money per month as a monthly fee, or it costs you money in terms of a percentage of the sales. So that convenience, there's always a charge for convenience because you're paying for somebody else to do your work for you. And that is a perfectly valid thing to do. If you are like, I've got more time, I want to make more money, I'm willing to do uploads myself, then you can do a combination of going direct and using distributors to reach various platforms. And this is what most people do. They will usually go direct to Amazon, and then the very easy end is go direct for Amazon and use a distributor for everything else. And then you can sort of just like move the difficulty scale from there, right? What I personally do is I go direct to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, and Google Play. I use distributors to get to Apple, the libraries, and all of the other smaller platforms like Tolino and Vivlio and Smashwords and Scribd, which is now Everand, and yeah, all the other ones. And there's so many small platforms out there. So I use distributors to get to all the smaller platforms. But the major platforms I go direct other than Apple. I am an Apple fangirl. All of my devices are Apple devices. My brother has now worked for Apple twice, although he has recently left them and is working for Rivian now. But like I am Apple girl through and through, and I use a distributor to get to Apple. Their back end is a pain in the patootie. And no bueno. No bueno. So I use a distributor to get to Apple. And all the libraries and smaller platforms.
I don't understand that. I'm an iPhone girl, I'm not a Mac girl, but I can't understand for a tech company why they've just made it so jolly difficult.
Yes, and they're worth trillions. They are the
Mm.
first company in the world that is publicly traded that hit a $1 trillion valuation. And this is the best they can do.
They could hire a
I'm
couple of
screwed.
people to fix that.
Do you
Really
think that
easy
it's
They,
one,
of such small
right?
consequence to them
Yeah.
that they
Yes,
are like they're
yes.
selling, iPhones and tablets and everything, all over the show. They're not actually bothered by the platform that the authors put their books up on, like
And the three, Apple, Google, and Amazon, three major tech companies are all in the ebook world, and none of them give a damn about books because we are literally a rounding error. If the ebook portion of Amazon, Google, and Apple went away tomorrow, I'm not even sure they would notice. We are literally a rounding error. And so they just don't give a damn. And guess what? It shows. So that's, I don't know, it's frustrating, but
mm.
what are we going to do?
Yeah, we work with what we
So
got, and you know what, it works. Like we have a benefit from all three of those companies, so we can make it work for us, right? Like going through a distributor for Apple, which it's the way it
it
works,
is what
right?
it is.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and they do earn their money, right? So the distributors, all three of them, will help you get in-house promotions, and they can really help you get your books out there. And you don't have to have access to sometimes the in-house promotion people can be a little bit secretive, I guess, in terms of being reached because they are very, very small teams and there are a lot of indie authors. And so they don't necessarily plaster their contact information
Mm.
all over the internet. If you use a distributor, you do have access to those in-house promotions.
Yeah.
So that can make a difference all in of its own.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
That's
Cool.
cool. So let's break down some of these platforms that we go on. I know you've got a few tricks for Google Play, for example, that we can use to help us kind of get a bit more visibility on that platform. So let's start there
yeah,
and go from
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So something that is really important for people to wrap their minds around, and hopefully based on what we were just discussing, this will make more sense. But all of these tech platforms and all of the retailers as a whole, are basically giant search engines. Okay. But unlike when you go to google.com, well, I mean, even now, the point of it isn't necessarily on google.com to buy something, although there are definitely now ads across the top and they are hoping you'll buy something. But that isn't usually the reason that you go to google.com. It's like, what's the weather or whatever, right? So, but the platforms, the retailers, they are a giant search engine where the final result is you buying something rather than just finding out information. Okay. So if you can get that in your head and really have that as your mindset, then other things start to make sense. One of the things I talk about quite a bit is optimizing your listings. So one of the phrases that we love to use is metadata, and it can sound a little bit fancy and a little bit scary, but all it means is information about your book. Okay, so your author name, the title, the subtitle, your publisher name, how many pages long it is it available as a print book or as an book or as an audio book, what language is it written in? That's metadata. Okay, that's all that is. That's just a fancy schmancy way of saying information about a book. So it can be very useful to worry about or spend some time optimizing some of the fields of your metadata of your books. So what I mean by that is across all the platforms, Amazon and Kobo and all the rest of them, and like Google.com, libraries, they're all paying attention to the title of the book, the subtitle, of the book, the author name, and hold on, what's the other one? Title, subtitle, series name. It's the series that it's in, the author name, and sometimes paying attention to the blurb. Okay. Um, so I can tell you, because I've done all the research because I'm a hashtag dork, that the retailers, out of the five major retailers, Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, and Kobo do not search index the blurb, meaning that the blurb plays the same role when it comes to visibility on the platform as the cover does. The cover does not help in terms of search results, right? You can have an ugly cover or a great cover. The search engine doesn't pay attention to the cover itself. It's paying attention to the metadata on the back end. The same thing is true of a blurb. Once someone has found your book, then the cover and the blurb should help convert them to buying the book. But on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo, the blurb is not used in terms of search results. And you are free to test this out, and you will find that it is true. I don't know, I don't have like a magic book or something that I pulled all these answers out of. I just spent some time doing lots of searches and figuring out why what shows up. Because again, hashtag dork. So Apple and Google Play do pay attention to it, right? Now that we know that, let's talk about the fields because do not hold the same weight in terms of search results. And you actually want that. So let's say for a moment that Trudy is like, hey, you know what? I would love to get myself some J.K. Rowling readers, right? I write urban fantasy. Those are kind of urban. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure they will love my books. And there's so many of them. They should all come read mine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put for fans of J.K. Rowling in my blurb. And then all the J.K. Rowling fans, when they do a search, are going to pull up my books. How exciting. Here's the deal. The storefronts, all of them, put more emphasis on some of the fields than they do others. And you very much want that because otherwise somebody could put into their blurb your author name, and then your readers trying to find your books would find theirs instead. And so obviously, the blurb has a whole bunch of words in it. A title has maybe 5 or 6, or I don't know, 8 or something, right? But like they're going to have a lot more weight than the blurb is going to have. So, in terms of the importance of the fields, it is the title of the book and the author of the book pretty much have about the same. So, if somebody is looking for the title of your book, or somebody is looking for your author name, that damn well should be the search results that come up at the top. And if the search engines that are masquerading as stores put somebody else's book up at the top, then they're not doing a good job of finding what it is that the reader wants. And the reader will eventually get frustrated and go somewhere else. So the search engines are very much programmed to give the readers what they want. And us authors just have to figure out what that is so that we are also giving the readers what they want and that everybody is happy. So the title and the author name are the 2 most important fields. Next comes the series name. So if somebody is looking specifically for the name of your series, they should be able to find your series. Next comes the subtitle in terms of importance. And then if it is search indexed, last is the blurb. So one of the things that people have figured out, because I tell them, and also they can do all the research themselves that they want, is that if you use a word in different fields, then you're telling the search engines that that is a really important word for you, and they should show you higher, right? So if you use a word one time, then it has less importance than if you have it in multiple fields. Also, which field are you putting it into has its own importance. There's all sorts of other things that play into search results and such, but at least know that your title, if it makes sense for your genre, if you can work in a useful keyword in your title, then by all that is holy, do it, right? So this is why you get a lot of romance novels that are like the cowboy finds the bride, because bride and cowboy are very useful keywords, right? So there are some genres where that makes sense. There are some genres where that it would be absolutely awful, and it wouldn't make any sense to do that. So let's say that you write thrillers, you wouldn't be like the detective finds the thriller book, right? Like there are genres where it makes sense and there's genres where it doesn't. So if you can work in one keyword into your title, have at ye, fantastic. Your author name is your author name. Typically, you're not going to have a last name of thriller or mystery or something like that. So that typically doesn't have much to do with SEO. Next is a series. If you can work in a keyword or even 2 in your series name, then that's really useful. And an example of this would be like, let's say that you are writing books set in, I don't know why this popped in my brain, but Pendleton, California. Okay. Then you were like Cozy Mysteries of Pendleton. I don't know. This is a terrible series name. Honestly, it's very dry and boring, but it has the phrase Cozy Mysteries in it in the series name, which is very useful in terms of search results. So for my own series, I have series names Cowboys of Long Valley Romance, Firefighters of Long Valley Romance, Servicemen of Long Valley Romance. I hope you guys are spotting some sort of a trend here, right? Long Valley is where all my books take place. Romance is very useful in terms of keywords. And then what occupation do they have? So, but very, very intentionally chosen because it is very, very heavy in terms of keywords. So if it makes sense, then put a keyword into your series name. It doesn't always make sense to have it in your title or your series name, but the subtitle can be an excellent place to put useful keywords. So an example of that would be like female sleuth, um, female sleuth cozy mystery. I don't know. I don't write cozies. I try sometimes to use genres, other genres, and then my mind blanks because I'm like, I write romance. But so let's just use romance for a minute because that is what I'm more comfortable with. So like enemies to lovers, Western romance. You have the trope, enemies to lovers, you have the genre, Western romance. And so like then I am showing up for enemies to lovers, I'm showing up for romance, I'm showing up for Western romance. And then my series name is Cowboys of Long Valley Romance. So I have romance in there twice, very much on purpose. And then also I am using Western romance in my subtitles and cowboys and romance in my series. Also, again, very much on purpose because my genres are cowboy, Western romance, small town. Some of my subtitles have small town in them. Um, I I don't know what the reader is going to search for. Are they going to search for cowboy? Are they going to search for Western? Are they going to search for small town? Are they going to search for firefighter? Are they going to search for fireman? So with my firefighter series, it's Firefighters of Long Valley Romance, and then it is Second Chance Fireman Romance. Fireman is in the subtitle, Firefighters is in the series. Then that way I'm covering all the bases. Would I show up higher if I used, for example, firefighters in both places? Yes. Yes, I would. I would show up higher for firefighters, but I would show up lower or maybe not even at all, depending on how advanced the platform is for fireman. And there are a lot of readers who will search for firemen. So I would rather split my bet and go for firefighter and firemen than put it all in on one or the other and then not show up for the other one.
Yeah.
So holy schmoles, and we need to get over to Google. But
No, that makes,
if
but I think
you
that's good principles for everything, to be honest with you.
yes. And so people get, okay, I can hear people asking these questions and we haven't even published this podcast yet, but the question is going to be, number one, it always is, I thought I had to be on the cover. I thought the subtitle had to be on the cover.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about this. Yes and no. According to the TOS, Terms of Service, of all 5 of the major platforms, your subtitle absolutely has to be on your cover. You can go to the platforms and you can look at my beautiful covers and you can look at my subtitles and you will not find those bad boys on the covers. So how am I doing it? Here's the truth of the matter. The platforms want your books to be found by the right reader because they don't make any money unless you sell books, right? You actually cost them money because they have to host your book. They have to create an account for you. They have to manage all of those things. They do not want dead weight sitting on their stores. It costs them storage. It costs them employees. It costs them all sorts of things. They want those books selling. That's how they make their money. So they give us the subtitle section because they want us to use it so that readers can find the right books. So that readers will buy it and go on their happy way, and everybody will be, wee. What happened is authors were like, OMG, did you know that if you put a whole bunch of keywords into the subtitle and it's this long, then everybody finds your book and you make a whole bunch of money and your listing looks like but hey, at least we're making lots of money. Happy days are here again. The platforms got a little bit grumpy with like, I don't know, Virgin, Auction, Stepbrother, BDSM, Mafia, romance, fake pregnancy. I don't know, whatever, right? Like they don't like those as a subtitle. That's too long. It looks awful. So everybody was like, okay, new rule has to be on the cover. Yeah. Do they pay attention though? Not really. Um, because they really only put that rule in place so that they could point at it if your subtitle is nasty and out of control.
Yeah.
Right.
So, as long as your subtitle is not nasty and out of control, you're really not going to have many problems with platforms. However, there's always a but. Okay. Every once in a blue moon, Amazon will wake up on the rungs of the bed and they'll get all pissy with you. Yeah, it's never happened with me. I've talked to over 500 authors at this point. It has happened to some of the authors I've talked to. It's not like it doesn't happen. Let's pretend for a second that you really didn't have an out of control subtitle, but for whatever reason, Amazon was like, hey, you, how dare you do this? The worst thing that will happen in that case is they will send you an email and they will say, hey, did you know that your subtitle is not on your cover? And you go, OMG, was that me? I'm so sorry. You know what? Let me go take care of that. And then you go over to your KDP dashboard and you delete your subtitle and you hit save and you send them an email and you say, so sorry, don't know what I was thinking, and never add a subtitle to that book again. Okay. That book has now become like, I don't know, nuclear reactive green glowing. Don't touch, no touchy this subtitle section. You're free to change everything else, but never add a subtitle back to that particular book. For whatever reason, Amazon never looks at the rest of your books on your catalog. So they will pick out this one book and they'll be like, did you know you have a subtitle? And you're like, oh, my bad. I'm so sorry. Let me go fix that. And you take the
That's
subtitle out.
interesting. So that's rather
Go
than
on your merry way.
adding the subtitle to the cover and saying, I'm very sorry, I've now added it to the cover, you would say just delete it and just get it off the radar.
That's totally an option too.
Okay.
Absolutely. There's nothing saying that you can't have it on your cover. A lot of authors just don't like it on the cover because they will play with the subtitle and they'll be like, I want to try a different subtitle because I feel like this has better results or whatever. They don't want to lock themselves into one subtitle because they may change or update later on. They also may not want to pay their designer to add a subtitle on. I mean, you can always do it in like BookBrush and things like that.
Yeah.
Some people don't like the fact that it's more cluttered on their cover. They like the clutter-free look. Some people are just lazy and it's just easier to delete the subtitle. Some people are like, oh, my bad, and they add the subtitle on, right? So lots of different options. But the really important thing to know is they're only paying attention to that one book. For some reason, they're very myopic in this situation. And number two, at no point is your Amazon account potentially at risk for doing this. I am very blunt with people when I'm like, do not do XYZ. That can get your account shut down at Amazon and only bad things lie down that road, right? I will absolutely tell people if that's the truth because I do never want anybody to risk their Amazon account. I have literally never heard of someone losing their account because of a subtitle that was not on the cover. It just doesn't happen. It is as close to certain as you can get. I mean, maybe Amazon will wake up tomorrow and they will just be like, hell, fire, rain down upon all of us, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? But up to this point, they have literally never shut down an account for that reason. So It is a
Okay.
risk that I'm willing to take, and I don't want to put it on my cover, damn it. So I don't. Okay, so I know that I just keep rambling. Oh my God, you guys are gonna be like, where is the uh muffle? What is that? Where you you make people shut up by putting something in their mouth. What is that called? A gag. You guys are gonna
Yeah.
ask for a gag. Yes.
Right.
Let me just finish this last part and then you can gag me. Like, um, it's draft to digital. Draft to digital is very picky about whether or not it is on the cover. They are the one platform that if you put it in the metadata and it is not on your cover, 100% of the time they catch it.
Mm.
It just is what it is. That is like the only reason that I can honestly, oh, no, there's like maybe two reasons that I could think of that you should go direct to Apple. Because when you go direct to Apple, you can put whatever subtitle you want, and it doesn't matter. Apple does not care at all. But if you ask the people at Draft to Digital, they tell you that Apple really cares a lot, and that's why they're doing this. It's something that I personally don't really understand because I've had books direct to Apple for years and years and years. I actually just moved everything off direct to Apple because I was done messing with their backend. And that whole time, I had subtitles that were never on the covers, and I never had a single bit of issue. I was talking to reps at Apple. They know me by first name. They buy me drinks at conferences, right? Okay. And they were like, nah, they don't care that your subtitle is not on your cover. And that's true for everybody. That's not just because I'm Erin Wright, blah, blah, blah. I've never heard of anybody being in trouble with Apple because they had a subtitle in the system that wasn't on the cover. But if you go through Draft to Digital, they will tell you they can't because of Apple. So
Hmm.
whatever, it is what it is. So don't use a subtitle on Apple. I mean, excuse me, don't use a subtitle on Draft to Digital that isn't on the cover.
Mm, yeah,
Other than that, have at ye. Just
Yeah.
please don't be stupid and have a really long subtitle.
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Gotta
That's
make sense.
awesome. Thank you so much. I think that we are, like you say, needing to end the interview. We've kind of reached our time here, but we could keep talking for another hour, I'm sure. But if anyone wants to that you've got loads of courses. I've done several of them and I totally recommend them, including one on Google Play, and other topics. I think you've just done one on libraries, I want to say, but I could be wrong about that. Or is that an old one? Can't
Yes.
remember.
Yep. Nope. 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 I just did one on libraries because I used to be a library director. So that I feel like that's an area that I have knowledge in that not necessarily everybody does.
Mm.
So I did that and I'm actually currently doing one on Kickstarter.
Oh,
So
cool. Oh, nice. Awesome.
yeah.
So if anyone wants to find those courses, where do they go to? How do they?
Yeah. So if you go to my website, which is erinwright.net, some other bastard took.com, so it is .net, slash authors with an S at the end, or there is a link at the top in the bar across the top. If you just go to erinwright.net, and click on authors, it takes you to the same place. That kind of has my stuff. I do need to update that area, but that will at least get you started. You can
Mm.
find a link to do consultations with me, my classes, and then reach out to me. I also have a contact page, and maybe you're going to be in your corner of the world,
Oh,
and we could meet up.
yeah,
Yeah. So
that sounds
reach
awesome.
out, talk to me. I'm here.
Cool. Okay. And if someone wants to go and read one of your books, do they go to the same place?
Yeah, erinwright.net has all of my books too.
Okay.
So yeah. Yep, same
That'd be
place.
the best place to find you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Erin. We've had a really good time here today talking about so many different things. It was crazy, but it was all fascinating. So thank you so much. And Shah, where can we be found?
We can be found at spagirlspodcast.com. We're on Patreon ourselves at Spagirls Podcast, and we'd love to see you there and join our community.
Yeah. So thank you, Erin, for joining us on the spa today. And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us in the spa. I hope you learned something. I'm sure you did. I learned lots. And we'll see you again next week. But for now, farewell.
Well,
Bye.
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 Bye.